A rich girl pretended to lose everything. She moved into a cracked room with peeling walls to test the man she loved. He promised her the world with beautiful words. But when she truly needed him, those words turned to dust. What happened next will shock you. Sit back, relax, and find out as we delve into this emotional story. In the heart of Kano, there lived a young woman named Rachel. Her father, Mr. Daniel, was one of the wealthiest men in the city. People called him a business mogul. His company towers stretched across the skyline. His name opened doors that stayed locked for others. But in Rachel's heart, money had brought more pain than joy. Rachel worked at her father's company. She had her own office on the 20th floor. Glass walls, leather chairs, a view of the city, every morning. People smiled at her, they greeted her warmly. They laughed at her jokes even when they were not funny. But Rachel knew the truth. They did not see her. They saw her father's wealth. They saw opportunity. They saw a ladder to climb. Rachel had a best friend named Grace. Grace worked in the marketing department. She was one of the few people who treated Rachel normally. They had lunch together almost every day. One afternoon they sat in a quiet restaurant. Grace looked at Rachel with concern. "You seem troubled," Grace said softly. "What's wrong?" Rachel stirred her drink slowly. "Grace, do you think David really loves me?" Grace paused. She had met David several times. She knew how charming he could be. "Why do you ask?" Grace said carefully. Rachel looked up. "Because sometimes I feel like he loves what I have, not who I am." Grace reached across the table and held Rachel's hand. "Then test him." Rachel blinked. "Test him? How?" "Show him who you are without all of this," Grace said, gesturing around. "Without the money, without the status. See if he stays." Rachel sat back slowly. The idea scared her, but it also made sense. "What if he fails?" Rachel whispered. Grace squeezed her hand. "Then you'll know the truth, and the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than living a lie." That evening, Rachel sat in her bedroom. The room was large, decorated with expensive furniture. Soft lights glowed from crystal lamps, but she felt empty inside. She picked up her phone and stared at a message from her boyfriend David. "Good night, my love. I care for you more than anything in this world." Rachel read the words slowly. Her fingers moved over the screen. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust that his love was real. But doubt crept into her mind like shadows at sunset. Does he love me or does he love what I represent? She closed her eyes. A plan began to form in her heart. The next morning, Rachel dressed simply. No designer clothes, no expensive jewelry. Just a plain blouse and jeans. She looked at herself in the mirror. "This is who I really am," she whispered. She drove to her father's office. Mr. Daniel was sitting behind his wide desk when she entered. He looked up and smiled. "Rachel, my daughter." "Good morning. Good morning, Daddy." She sat across from him. Her hands rested in her lap. "Daddy, I need to tell you something." Mr. Daniel leaned forward. "What is it?" Rachel took a deep breath. "I want to leave the company for a while." Her father's eyes narrowed. "Leave? Why?" "I want to experience real life," she said quietly. "I want to know who truly cares about me. Not because of your name, not because of your money. Just me." Mr. Daniel studied her face for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "I understand," he said. "But be careful, my daughter. The world outside these walls is not always kind." Rachel smiled softly. "I know, Daddy, but I need to do this." He reached across the desk and held her hand. "Then go, but remember, you can always come back home." "Thank you." "Daddy." Mr. Daniel opened his drawer and pulled out an envelope. "Take this," he said. "Just in case." Rachel looked inside. It was filled with cash, Daddy. "I can't take it," he said firmly. "You may be testing others, but I will not let my daughter suffer needlessly." Rachel nodded and put the envelope in her bag. But she promised herself she would not use it unless absolutely necessary. 2 days later, Rachel moved out of her luxurious apartment. She found a small room in a quiet part of the city. The walls had cracks. The paint was peeling. The floor creaked when she walked. There was one small window. The bed was narrow and hard. But it was hers. The landlady, Mrs. Comfort, was a large woman with suspicious eyes. She stood at the door watching Rachel bring in her small bag. "You pay rent every 2 weeks," Mrs. Comfort said. "No delay, no excuses." Rachel nodded. "I understand. And no noise, no visitors after 9, you hear me?" "Yes, ma'am." Mrs. Comfort looked her up and down. "You look like trouble." Rachel said nothing. The woman walked away muttering. Rachel stood in the middle of the room and looked around. Her chest felt tight. This was it. This was the test. She picked up her phone and called David. "Hello? My love." David's voice came through warm and cheerful. "David," Rachel said slowly, "I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "Are you okay?" She paused. "I lost my job." Silence. Then David spoke again. "What? How?" "The company downsized." Rachel lied. "They let me go yesterday." "Oh no, Rachel." "I'm so sorry." His voice sounded concerned. Rachel felt a flicker of hope. "I had to move out of my apartment," she continued. "I couldn't afford it anymore. I'm staying in a small room now." "A small room?" David repeated. "Where?" She gave him the address. "I see," he said quietly. "Well, don't worry. Everything will be fine. I'm here for you." Rachel closed her eyes. "Thank you, David. That means a lot." "Of course. My love, I care for you. I'll protect you. I'll never leave you." The words sounded beautiful. Like a song, like a promise, but Rachel knew that words were easy. Actions were what mattered. The next day, Rachel sat on her narrow bed. The room felt cold. She wrapped a thin blanket around her shoulders. Her phone rang. It was David. "Hello," she answered. "Rachel." "I was thinking," David said. "I'll come by today to help you settle in. Maybe bring some food." Rachel's heart lifted. "Really?" "That would be wonderful. Yes, of course." "I'll be there around 4. "Okay, I'll be waiting." She hung up and smiled. "Maybe I was wrong. Maybe he truly loves me." Rachel cleaned the small room. She swept the floor. She arranged her few things neatly. She wanted everything to be nice when David came. 4 o'clock came, then 5, then 6. Rachel sat by the window, watching the street below. People walked by. Cars passed, but David did not come. Her phone stayed silent. At 7, she finally received a message. "Rachel, I'm so sorry. Something came up at work. I couldn't leave. I'll come tomorrow, I promise." Rachel stared at the message. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then she typed slowly. "It's okay. I understand." But her heart felt heavy. That night, Rachel lay on the narrow bed. The mattress was hard. The room was cold. She pulled the thin blanket closer and stared at the ceiling. The sounds of the neighborhood filled the air. A woman shouting at her children. A man laughing loudly. Music playing from somewhere far away. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. But she did not cry. Not yet. The next day, David did not come. He sent another message. "My car broke down. I'll come the day after tomorrow." Rachel read the message and said nothing. She just nodded to herself. She decided to go out and look for a job. She needed something to do, something to make the test more real. She walked down the street until she found a small restaurant. The sign above the door was faded. The paint was chipping. But it looked clean. Rachel walked inside. A woman stood behind the counter. She was middle-aged with tired eyes. "Good morning," Rachel said politely. The woman looked up. "What do you want?" "I'm looking for work," Rachel said. "Any kind of work." The woman studied her for a moment. "You ever worked in a restaurant before?" Rachel hesitated. "No, but I can learn quickly." The woman snorted. "They all say that." She paused. "But I need someone to wash dishes and clean tables. You willing to do that?" Rachel nodded. "Yes, The pay is small, the woman warned. And the work is hard. I understand, the woman sighed. Fine, start tomorrow. 6 in the morning. Don't be late. Thank you, Rachel said. Thank you so much. As she walked back to her room, Rachel felt strange. She had never worked like this before. Never served anyone, never cleaned for money. But maybe that was the point. The next morning, Rachel woke up early. She dressed in simple clothes and walked to the restaurant. The woman, whose name was Mrs. Rose, showed her what to do: wash the dishes, clean the tables, sweep the floor, take orders when needed. The work was hard. Rachel's hands became sore. Her feet ached, her back hurt. But she did not complain. At the end of the day, Mrs. Rose handed her some money. It was not much, but Rachel held it carefully. You did well, Mrs. Rose said. Come back tomorrow. Rachel nodded. I will. As she walked home, her phone rang. It was David. Rachel, how are you? I'm tired, Rachel said honestly. I got a job today, at a restaurant. A restaurant? David sounded surprised. What kind of restaurant? A small one. I wash dishes and clean tables. Silence. Then David spoke. Rachel, you don't have to do that. I can help you find something better. It's okay, Rachel said quietly. I need the money. But washing dishes? David said, that's beneath you. Rachel stopped walking. Beneath me? You know what I mean, David said quickly. You're educated. You deserve better. Rachel closed her eyes. I see. Anyway, David continued, I'll try to visit you this week. Maybe Wednesday. Okay, Rachel said. But she did not believe him anymore. Days passed. Rachel continued working at the restaurant. Mrs. Rose began to warm up to her. She taught Rachel how to cook simple meals, how to deal with difficult customers, how to smile even when tired. Rachel learned something important. Work was not beneath anyone. Every job had dignity. One evening, as Rachel was cleaning tables, a man walked in. He was well dressed. He looked around the small restaurant with interest. Good evening, Rachel said politely. The man smiled. Good evening. I'll have rice and chicken. Rachel wrote down his order and took it to the kitchen. When she brought the food, the man looked at her carefully. You're new here, he said. Rachel nodded. Yes. I started last week. You don't look like you belong here, he said gently. Rachel stiffened. Everyone belongs somewhere. The man smiled. That's true. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way. Rachel relaxed a little. It's okay. The man ate his food quietly. Before he left, he gave Rachel a generous tip. Keep working hard, he said. Good things come to those who don't give up. Rachel watched him leave. His words stayed with her. Wednesday came. Rachel finished work early and went back to her room. She cleaned up and waited for David. 7 o'clock, 8, 9. Number David at 10. Her phone buzzed. Rachel, I'm sorry. I'm too tired today. Let's meet another time. Rachel stared at the message. Her hands began to shake. She typed slowly. You promised. David replied quickly. I know, but I'm exhausted. Please understand. Rachel's vision blurred with tears. She put the phone down and lay on the bed. She stared at the ceiling. He doesn't care. She thought, he never did. The next day at work, Mrs. Rose noticed Rachel's sad face. What's wrong, child? She asked. Rachel shook her head. Nothing. Mrs. Rose put down the pot she was holding. I may not know you well, but I know heartbreak when I see it. Rachel looked up. How do you know? Mrs. Rose smiled sadly. Because I've been there. Many times. Rachel sat down slowly. There's someone I care about. But he keeps breaking his promises. Mrs. Rose nodded. Men who break promises break hearts? He says he loves me. Rachel whispered. Words are cheap, Mrs. Rose said. Actions cost something if he's not willing to pay that cost. Then his love is not real. Rachel felt tears sting her eyes. I wanted to believe him. Mrs. Rose placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Believing is easy, accepting the truth is hard. But you must accept it, or you'll keep hurting yourself. Rachel wiped her eyes. Thank you. Now dry your tears, Mrs. Rose said with a small smile. We have customers to serve. Days continued to pass. David's messages became less frequent when Rachel tried to call. Sometimes he did not answer. One afternoon, Rachel was walking back from work when she saw a couple. They were young. They were laughing. The man was carrying the woman's bag. She was holding his hand. They looked happy. They looked real. Rachel felt a sharp pain in her chest. That evening, her phone rang. It was David. Rachel. I've been thinking. About what? She asked quietly. About us, about your situation. Rachel sat up. What do you mean? David spoke carefully. I want to help you, but I think you need to make some changes. Changes? Yes, you need to be more independent, maybe find a better job. Something that suits you. Rachel's chest tightened. I'm trying, David. I'm working every day. I know, he said quickly. But washing dishes? Rachel, that's not a real job. You need something professional, something that fits who you are. And who am I, David? Rachel asked quietly. He paused. You're better than this. Better than what? Better than honest work? That's not what I mean, David said, his voice rising slightly. I mean, you need to think about what I need. I have goals, Rachel, dreams. And I need someone who can support those dreams. Rachel closed her eyes. What are you saying? I'm saying that if we're going to be together, you need to become the version of yourself that fits my life. You need to have ambition. You need to look a certain way, act a certain way. Be someone I can be proud of. Silence. Rachel's hands gripped the phone tightly. Her voice came out low and steady. So you want me to change who I am? Not change, David said. Just improve. Be better. Rachel felt something break inside her. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly. Like glass cracking under pressure. I see, she whispered. Good, David said. I'm glad you understand. We can talk more about this later. He hung up. Rachel sat there for a long time. The room was quiet. The sun began to set outside. Shadows crept across the floor. She realized something in that moment. David never loved me. He loved the idea of me. The version of me that served his plans. Tears did not come this time. Just clarity. She picked up her phone and called Grace. Grace, Rachel said when her friend answered. Rachel! I've been worried about you. How are you? I'm okay, Rachel said. The test is almost over. Grace was quiet for a moment. What did you learn? I learned that you were right, Rachel said softly. The truth hurts, but it's better than living a lie. Do you want me to come see you? Grace asked gently. Not yet, Rachel said. I need to finish this. Be strong, Grace whispered. I'm here when you need me. Rachel hung up and looked around her small room. She had been here for 3 weeks now. 3 weeks of broken promises, 3 weeks of waiting, 3 weeks of seeing David's true colors. It was time to end it. The next morning, Rachel made a decision. She picked up her phone and called her father. Daddy, she said when he answered. Rachel, my daughter, how are you? I'm ready to come home. Mr. Daniels' voice softened. I'm glad. I'll send the driver. No, Daddy, I'll come by myself, but there's something I need to do first. What is it? I need to face the truth. Her father was silent for a moment. Then he said, Be strong, my daughter. I will. That evening, Rachel called David one last time. David, can you meet me today? She asked. It's important. David hesitated. I'm busy, Rachel. Please, she said. Just this once. He sighed. Fine, where? My place. Okay, I'll be there in an hour. Rachel cleaned the room one final time. She sat on the bed and waited. This time, David came. He knocked on the door. Rachel opened it slowly. David stood in the doorway. He looked at the small room with a frown. This place is really small, he said. And it smells. Rachel stepped aside. Come in. David walked in carefully. He looked around like he was afraid to touch anything. He did not sit down. So, he said, what did you want to talk about? Rachel looked at him, really looked at him. His eyes avoided hers. His hands stayed in his pockets. His face showed no warmth. David? She said softly. Do you love me? He blinked. Of course I do. Why would you ask that? Because I needed you, Rachel said. Her voice was steady. I needed you to show up, to help me, to be there when things were hard. David shifted uncomfortably. Rachel, I've been busy, you know that. Busy, Rachel repeated. You were busy every time I called, every time I asked for help, every time I cried. That's not fair, David said. I have my own life, my own problems. Rachel nodded slowly. You're right, you do. And I was wrong to think I was part of that life. David frowned. What are you saying? Rachel took a deep breath. You promised me many things. David, you said you cared. You said you would protect me. You said you would never leave me. But when I truly needed you. Your words collapsed like dust. David's face hardened. So what? You want me to drop everything for you? That's not how relationships work, Rachel. You're right, Rachel said quietly. That's not how relationships work. But love does show up. Love does keep its promises. Love does not ask you to become someone else just to fit into its plans. David crossed his arms. You're being dramatic. Maybe I am, Rachel said. But I've learned something important these past weeks. What? I've learned that love built on empty promises is not love at all. David stared at her. So what now? You're breaking up with me? Rachel looked at him one last time. No, David. I'm choosing myself. David's mouth opened. Then closed. He looked confused. Then his face changed. His eyes narrowed. Wait, he said slowly. This was all a test, wasn't it? Rachel said nothing. You're not really poor, David continued, his voice rising. This whole thing was fake. You were testing me. Rachel remained silent. David laughed bitterly. I can't believe this. You lied to me. You played games with me. I showed you the truth, Rachel said calmly. I gave you a chance to prove your love was real. You failed. No, David said angrily. You failed to trust me. You failed to be honest. What kind of person does that? Rachel walked to the door and opened it. The kind of person who needed to know the truth. Goodbye, David. He stood there for a moment. His face was red. His hands were shaking. You'll regret this, he said. You'll come back crying and I won't be there. Rachel smiled sadly. I won't come back, David, because I finally understand. You were never there to begin with. David shook his head and walked out. Rachel closed the door behind him. She leaned against it and let out a long breath. Her phone rang. It was her father. Rachel. The driver is outside. Rachel looked around the small room one last time. She picked up her bag and walked out. Mrs. Comfort was standing in the hallway. You leaving? The old woman asked. Rachel nodded. Yes. Mrs. Comfort studied her face. You look different than when you came. Stronger. Rachel smiled. Thank you for letting me stay here. The old woman waved her hand. Go on, go back to wherever you came from. But remember what you learned here. I will, Rachel said. When she stepped outside, a black car was waiting. The driver opened the door. Rachel got in. Her father sat beside her. Welcome home. My daughter, Mr. Daniel said softly. Rachel rested her head on his shoulder. Thank you, Daddy. As the car drove through the city, Rachel looked out the window. The streets were busy. People walked with purpose. Life continued. But Rachel felt different, lighter, stronger. She had lost a boyfriend, but she had found something more valuable. She had found herself back at home. Rachel walked into her old room. Everything was the same. The soft bed, the crystal lamps, the view of the city, but she was not the same. She sat on the bed and looked at her hands. These hands had swept floors. These hands had washed dishes, these hands had lived in a cracked room. These hands had learned what it meant to stand alone. Her father knocked on the door gently. "Come in, Daddy." Mr. Daniel entered and sat beside her. "So," he said, "what did you learn?" Rachel smiled softly. "I learned that not everyone who speaks beautifully has a beautiful heart. I learned that promises without actions are just empty words. And I learned that choosing myself was the greatest act of kindness I could give my own heart." Mr. Daniel nodded. "And David?" Rachel shook her head. "He was never the man I thought he was. When life became real, his love became fake." Her father placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'm proud of you, my daughter. It takes strength to walk away from what hurts you." Rachel leaned into him. "Thank you, Daddy, for letting me learn this lesson. Some lessons," Mr. Daniel said, "can only be learned by living them." Rachel closed her eyes. For the first time in weeks, she felt peace. The next day, Rachel went to visit Grace. They sat in Grace's apartment drinking tea. "Tell me everything," Grace said. Rachel told her about the small room, about David's broken promises, about Mrs. Rose and the restaurant, about the final conversation. Grace listened quietly when Rachel finished. She reached over and hugged her. "I'm proud of you," Grace whispered. "You're so strong." Rachel smiled. "I didn't feel strong. I felt broken." "Being broken is part of becoming strong," Grace said. "You face the truth. That takes courage." They sat together for a while in comfortable silence. Then Grace asked, "What will you do now?" Rachel thought for a moment. "I'll go back to work, but differently. I'll remember what I learned. I'll treat people with respect. I'll value actions over words." Grace nodded. "And love? Will you try again?" Rachel looked out the window. "Maybe one day, but not until I meet someone who shows up. Someone who keeps his promises. Someone who loves me for who I am, not who he wants me to be." Days passed. Rachel returned to work at her father's company, but she was different now. She saw people clearly. She heard words carefully. She valued actions over promises. One morning, as she sat in her office, her assistant knocked. "Miss Rachel, there's someone here to see you." Rachel looked up. "Who?" "A young man, he says his name is David." Rachel's heart did not skip. It stayed steady. "Tell him I'm not available." The assistant nodded and left. Rachel turned back to her computer. She continued her work without looking back. Because some doors, once closed, should never be opened again. That afternoon, Rachel received a text from an unknown number. "You were right. I'm sorry." It was David. Rachel read the message once, then she deleted it. She did not owe him forgiveness. She did not owe him closure. She owed herself peace. And peace meant letting go completely. One evening, Rachel attended a business event with her father. The hall was filled with important people. Music played softly. Conversations filled the air. Rachel stood near the window, holding a glass of juice. "Excuse me," a voice said behind her. She turned. A young man stood there. He had kind eyes and a gentle smile. "I'm Michael," he said. "I work with the finance department." Rachel smiled politely. "Nice to meet you, Michael. I've seen you around the office," Michael said. "You always look focused." "I admire that." Rachel studied him. He seemed genuine. They talked for a while. Michael was respectful. He asked questions. He listened carefully. He did not try to impress her with empty words. He told her about a charity project he was working on, about helping children in poor neighborhoods. His eyes lit up when he spoke about it. Rachel found herself smiling. Real smiling. When the event ended, Michael said, "Would you like to have coffee sometime?" "Just to talk." Rachel studied his face. Then she nodded slowly. "Maybe." Michael smiled. "I'll take that as a yes. How about Saturday morning?" Rachel hesitated, then she nodded. "Okay." "Saturday morning." "Great," Michael said. "I'll pick you up at 9? "No," Rachel said gently. "I'll meet you there. Send me the address." Michael looked a bit surprised, but he nodded. "Of course, I understand," as he walked away. Rachel felt something warm in her chest. Not love, not yet, but possibility. Saturday came. Rachel dressed casually and drove to the coffee shop. Michael was already there. Sitting at a small table near the window, he stood up when he saw her. Rachel, thank you for coming. They sat down and ordered coffee. Michael was easy to talk to. He asked about her interests, her dreams, her favorite books. He shared stories about his childhood, his failures, his hopes. He was honest, he was real. At one point, Rachel asked, "Why did you approach me that night?" Michael smiled. "Because you looked peaceful, like you knew who you were. That's rare." Rachel felt her heart warm a little more. As they were leaving, Michael said, "I'd like to see you again, but only if you want to." Rachel looked at him, really looked at him. She did not see games, she did not see pretense. She saw someone who might be worth knowing. "Okay," she said. "Let's do this again." Michael's smile grew. "Thank you. I'll call you next week." "Okay," Rachel said. As she drove home, Rachel felt something she had not felt in a long time. Hope, not the desperate hope that comes from need, but the gentle hope that comes from peace. Rachel walked away with a small smile on her face. She did not know what the future held, but she knew one thing clearly. This story teaches us that we must never build our lives on empty promises. Words are easy. Anyone can say, "I love you." But real love shows up. Real love keeps its word. Real love does not ask you to become someone else, so tell me, what do you learn from this story? Share your thoughts in the comment section. I would love to read from you. If you enjoyed this one, don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends so others can also learn from it. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you.